happinessI. I'm here with my co-host Shelly.
Hi, Pamela. I can't believe we're in December. Like, what
I can't either.
Holy cow.
I can't believe we are finishing up our first season.
I know.
I'm loving it. I'm loving hearing from people. I am grateful for all the listeners. Thank you. You never know when you do create something whether anyone's going to like what you created.
Right.
So
right.
So that people are listening and they like it. Thank you so much. It is really fun.
Awesome.
And you're
So
such
fun.
a huge part of that, Shelly. You make it very fun for us.
Thank you. It's fun.
You make me laugh. Yeah.
There have been some really fun comments, and commentary, I should say, from outside people. It's been really fun.
Yeah. We have listeners all over the place.
Right.
From all across the U.S., Australia. We've got some listeners in Germany, in Austria even. Uh-huh. And a friend of mine actually got a message from one, and it was in German, and so I had to have my friend translate it that speaks German. And it was so cool. Like, they are listening and they love it.
I love it.
And I've met the guy before, actually. His name is Winnie. So, Winnie, in Austria or Germany, wherever you are today, or Italy, because he's always traveling, thank you so much for listening, and thanks for telling people. It made my day. Made me so happy.
I think that's awesome. One of my grandkids, he works at a pizza place. He has his whole team listening. He said the other day it was so weird because he came in and he said, I'm back washing dishes, and all of a sudden I hear my grandma's voice and this whole character thing, and they had piped it through the speakers. So it was way fun.
Oh, that's so awesome. He's like, what is my grandma doing here?
Why is my grandmother here? We also had something. I have a lot of teachers that listen. Thank you.
Please. Yeah.
She had a really scary experience. She was being followed home. She'd gotten cut off at going to a store. And so she backed way off. And so she went in and parked, but she noticed this car following her and parking a couple stalls down. And she said, I didn't really think much about it. But when I came out, it was still there. So she said, I put my groceries in the car and went to start it up. And as I started my car, so did they. So she said, it scared me enough that I just turned my car off and went back into the store and said, listen, I think I'm being followed.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, I think they called the police. But anyway, the car takes off. So she winds her way home on a different path and gets home and is telling her family about it. And her daughter was adamant that she call you. She's like, we need to get a hold of Pamela. We need to have her take care of this. She is a private investigator. She's going to be able to find this. And I thought, how interesting how darling, first of all.
It is so cute.
It is so great. But you know what? We are alerting not only adults, but this student is in middle school in the 10th grade.
That is too cool.
It is. She's aware that there is someone out there to help her. And I think it's awesome that she's hyper aware and that there are resources.
And they thought of me.
I love it. Of you.
I totally love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Whenever we finished a trial and we've just really kicked some butt in the case, and the lawyers are saying like, wow, thank you, Pamela. We couldn't have done this without you. I always joke with them as I'm leaving and I say, hey, next time you guys need me, just put the bat signal up in the sky and I will be there.
Yes. I love it because this student is not driving yet, but she was very aware and worried for her mom. I think her mom did exactly what she should have done.
She did.
She immediately got back out, went back into the store. She followed protocol, to keep herself safe. But I think it's awesome. Her first instinct is to call you, Pamela, private investigator.
That is
because
very cool.
she knew you were going to be able to help her. So
and
that the mom had not gotten any kind of a license plate. That was about as far as it could go. But I think it's awesome that she's aware that there's
that
support.
is my suggestion, though, to get a plate for people for the police when you can. It really makes my day because if I'm not working, I'm just sitting looking out over the city on my porch, just watching for the bat signal to come up to see where am I supposed to go next.
Yes.
So
that's
very cool.
Yeah,
I really do love it.
Yeah.
This episode, because it's the end of the year, and I want to focus on a lot of good things, and not only make sure everyone knows that we're grateful for all of you listeners, but I also want to share with you some of the greatest wisdom that I've gotten from the life lessons that I've learned from doing all this. And here's what's really beautiful about it. Like, it's really heavy and intense. You've heard the cases.
Yeah.
You've heard some of the stuff that I've been through. And it's not just my wisdom. I have been able to get wisdom from clients, and I'll share that with you today. And I think the greatest thing I've learned is how to climb out of real darkness and despair. Mm-hmm. And I think that this will help you if you've felt darkness in your life. Like, if I could give you anything that would, like, reach a hand out and help you, it would be today's episode. So I can't wait to share it with you. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay.
That might be one of my biggest life lessons, because I thought all of them were bad guys. And what I learned is, not only did I learn to love my clients, and that was just from listening to their story, because we all have a story.
Right.
We all have a reason to get there, to the places where we are. And I don't know.
Right.
I don't think most of us are living where we thought we would be living at this point in our life.
True. Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of detours along the way, and we have to make accommodations, and we have to be able to find joy, because I was supposed to be a big country singer and on stage. And so life throws us curveballs. We got to figure out. I mean, there were a lot of times I remember flying home from Nashville with tears rolling down my face, thinking I failed because I didn't get the record deal.
Yeah.
And I, like, oh my gosh, like, and everyone will know that I was in Nashville trying to make this happen, and it didn't happen for me. Am I a failure? So we have to take those moments and that pain and figure out, how can we make it beautiful? And truly, like, I love life.
Right.
When we're focused on how can we serve, how can we take what we have and share that, I think opportunities come. Like, even when you called me last year and said, hey, you should be doing a podcast. And I'm like, no way! I just started a podcast, and I need you. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah, so fun. Like, I was like, if you ever need a sidekick, call me.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, not a psychic, but a sidekick.
Yeah.
Or a psychic. I may need one of those, too.
I also think we need to remember one of the big lessons I've learned from doing this podcast with you is exactly what you said. Some of the cases you're like, how can you not hate them? They are evil. And there really are evil people in the world, definitely. Yeah. But a lot of these things that have happened are crimes of passion. Maybe they have been in the normal realm. They were a normal couple. Yeah. You just don't know what's going to tip someone over to change not only their life and their path, but whoever they've injured or harmed or killed or stolen from, or whatever the situation be.
Next season, we'll talk about my sex assault that happened to me and the life lessons. We won't have a lot of time to go into what I learned from it. But after that happened, I went into depression. I'd never been depressed like that. Like, it was...
Right.
It was such a dark, awful place. And if someone has been depressed, I relate to where you are and where you've been. And if you haven't, I hope you never have to feel it, because it is...
Right.
To be that hopeless is a really awful place to be.
Yes, yes.
And when I went through that, I thought, okay, I want to get out of this, like, fast and furious. Like, I do not like being here. So I didn't just get one counselor. I had two counselors, because I thought if one's good, two's twice as good. And I'll get through this, like, really fast. And I was literally telling them, like, hey, I get it. You don't want to tell people hard things because sometimes they don't come back. You can tell me hard things. I'm coming back. I'm so depressed that if I could just flip a switch and stop breathing, I would do it.
Right.
Like, I just wanted to disappear. It was so painful. And through that process, I ended up selling some property. I was broke at the time, too. So just to add on, like... Hey, what else? What other crap can going in your life right now?
Yeah, let's pile on again.
But it was actually because of the assault that I had no money coming in, because the lawyers were like, oh, you're part of this case. We better not give you sex cases or any kind of cases. Sure. So they gave me no work. So, like, oh, this is awesome. Not only do I have this to deal with, but now I don't know how to pay my mortgage. So I had a piece of property that I'd bought after college, and I sold that with the option to buy it back if I ever pulled my head out and got back on my feet. I was in California. I took off grabbed my parents. We went to California for a month, and I was so depressed. I just, I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you're in you're so sad that you think, I don't want to be here, and then you go somewhere else, and you realize, oh crap, I brought me with me. Like, I'm still sad.
Oh, yeah. You're like, wait, didn't she get left home?
Yeah. I'm still sad. I'm just in a prettier environment.
Right.
That's where I was with that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I got to do something different. And I'd tried meditation before, but I did it differently. I remember going on a run down the beach one morning, and at the end of my run, I was like, oh, I just sat on the rocks and watched the waves come in, and tears just rolled down my face, and I thought, I got to do something different. I have to try something. And I hadn't ever been able to meditate to clear my mind, because surprisingly, although many people think my mind is always empty, it's actually it's not.
So just so you know.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley.
I knew.
Yeah, Shelley knew. It's not empty. There's stuff in there.
There is stuff in there.
So it was really hard. I couldn't do it. So I thought, okay, I've got to just create my own. And so I did. I thought, okay, I'm just going to start focusing on everything I'm grateful for. And that actually changed my life. I started out the first part of my meditation. I started focusing on all the things I was grateful for. And we can always find things that we're grateful for.
Yes.
That we can.
But you know what? Sometimes when life is so tough, I remember when Dirk was dying with cancer, there were some times, you climb in bed after a hell of a day, and I would just think, I am so thankful I had a good hair day.
Oh, yeah.
Or I am so thankful that I can lay down for 30 minutes. Sometimes that's all you've got.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, because the weight of the world is just all over you.
But we can always, that action of focusing on what we're grateful for is life-changing. And it was life-changing for me.
It is, because if you don't, you will collapse in on yourself. Oh. You really will.
That simple thing, I started doing it every day. It's part of my meditation every day. I started, I talk about Crazy Jack all the time that I work with. When I started doing this meditation every day, and the first part is like, I focus all these things I'm grateful for. And it only takes like 10 minutes that I do it. And the next part, I focus on those traits and attributes that I want to have. And I'm telling everyone this because I swore when I was in that dark place, if I ever found a way out, I would show other people the way. So I just want to take a minute and share this with people to help them find their way out too. And I hope this would be helpful. So the first part was gratitude. Then I focus on the traits and attributes that I want to have as if I already have them. And so at the time, I felt completely powerless because I had literally been overpowered by this man. And so every day, like the first attribute that I would focus on is, I would say, I am powerful. I didn't feel very powerful at the time, but by saying those words have energy. They really do.
Yes,
they have energy, and
you put them out there.
Yes,
you put them out there.
You got to run that through your soul, through your body, through your bones. Get that in your blood and get that pumping through you. And then the last part of it is where you want to be, where I would see myself, even if it was like, okay, I have to meet with Jack today, and he's going to be crazy. He's going to be like psycho, jumping all over me about something. Right. And I'm okay. Like, I would just picture myself having peace. And I am not kidding. When I started doing this, and then I went into his office a few times to get a case here or there or have a meeting, he noticed. He could feel the difference in my energy. And he said, there were a couple times that he said to me, what's different about you?
Oh, that's awesome.
It is. It was really cool. And there was, if I ever didn't do it, what I noticed was that it was really easy for someone to knock me over emotionally. But if I started with that foundation and just had that base. So what was fascinating to me is that I had that gratitude, that it started with the gratitude. And when you look at the psychology behind all of it, there is a ton of psychology that gratitude is the key to us finding happiness. It's the way out of the darkness. And I had a
But I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're down, and you're down deep.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, you don't want to be alive. You're not sure what you're doing.
Right.
I'm not saying that you were suicidal, but you're down,
Right.
down. Why, of all of the straws that you could pull out of the air, did you pick gratitude? What popped into your head that was like, I think I'll start here? Like, if someone is struggling that deep,
Right.
how do they reach for that straw?
For me, I've always been, like, having graduated psychology, I always had the background of that.
Okay.
So I knew there was science behind it, but I'd never, I'd practiced it at different times, but I'd never been in such a low place where I needed it like that.
Okay.
And so then it was like, I know that they say this works. I never had to put it to the test like that before. At that point, seriously, I was seeing 2 counselors. That wasn't fixing me. I was exercising every day. That wasn't fixing me. It helped to get the endorphins going. For like an hour after I exercised, I would feel pretty good. And then I'd just go right back into that depression. So I figured I've got nothing to lose. I just got to grasp for something. For me, it's been very life-changing. And to this day, I meditate each day. It's a lot so like powerful. A prayer. It's a very, for me, it really helps me find peace and be able just be a better person.
Yeah.
Along those lines of gratitude, so one of the more famous cases that I worked on was the Jeremy Johnson trial.
Okay.
In that case, and we will talk about it extensively, I hope, in season 2 here, and you will not believe what happened in that case. It's probably the biggest reason that I'm doing the podcast, because I just had a belly full of seeing so much. You would not believe the injustice and the craziness that I saw.
Okay.
At the end of that trial, and it was a 6-week trial, and at the end of it, there were 3 co-defendants, and one of them was acquitted, and he deserved to be, all of them deserved to be acquitted.
Okay.
The charges on this were so crazy, and we'll go into the details, but I will just tell everyone this. There were so many injustices that after the trial, even jurors were filing motions with the Court of Appeals because they were so upset by what happened in this case. Jurors. Wow. Okay. I've never heard of that ever happening. And I was so distraught because 2 of the 3 defendants were convicted on some counts, and because of that conviction were ordered to go to prison, and their prison sentence, the time that they served, was all that was not just, in my opinion. There were so many things that were wrong, and I couldn't rest. I've told you in some of these cases, like when there's injustice, I can't rest. I'm so upset that I'm constantly trying to figure out, how can we do this? How can we do this? And for Jeremy, he was put in federal prison. And I know we say, oh, federal prison, that's easy. And there are parts of it, and he was in a minimum security, so you think, oh, that's easy. It's not easy. It's really tough. There are some really scary characters that in there also. They do, in one of the prisons he was in, they do have some privileges. They had some tennis courts, which you're like, what? How hard can that be? And he could email me and his family, which I really appreciated. And I was constantly scheming how to right this wrong. Right all of these wrongs. And I had sent him an email. This is probably, 2 years after he's been in prison, and I'm still just wringing my hands over it. I can't figure out how to fix this. And I sent him an email and said, hey, what about this? We should look at this, and we should do this and try and appeal it based on this. And Jeremy wrote me back, and I got permission from him to share these emails. And he wrote me back, and he writes, ha, you are ever the detective. I bet it's hard for you to sleep sometimes with that active mind of yours working overtime, trying to figure out everyone's little schemes and such. I love it. And he says, the truth is this. If I could go back in time and stop the government from wrecking my business, taking all my stuff. Now, you need to know, he was a self-made millionaire. He had millions, and the government came in and seized all of his money, all of his assets, his everything. They sold homes that he had, everything. Cars, airplanes, helicopters. And he was a pilot.
So this is something, in order for us to know the depth of it, we will cover his case in January or later in the year.
Later. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you get the idea. Like,
Yeah.
It was such injustice that I just couldn't rest.
Okay.
And they'd taken everything before a trial. And that's the part that I was like, how can this happen? I thought, like, you get a trial and then they decide. Not in this case. And in fact, the U.S. Supreme Court has changed that, so it can't happen anymore. But this happened right before they changed that ruling. So the government seized all of it, and millions. They seized money, assets, everything. So he says, this will be hard for you to understand, but I will do my best to explain. He says, if I could go back in time and stop the government from wrecking my business, taking all my stuff and money, destroying my reputation, and taking my freedom, I would not do it if I had to also give back everything I have learned from the experience.
Wow.
I really mean that. What I have learned from it all is worth more to me than all the gold and diamonds in the world.
Wow.
In life, we learn and grow from parallels. I already knew... Sorry, I'm crying, I can't see. I already knew what it's like to have all the money I could ever need. I know what it's like to have everyone looking up to you and admire you and think you're a kind of generous person. I was even, and he puts in like parentheses, I was even awarded Humanitarian of the Year. He says, I know what it's like to help other people when they are down. And I know what it's like to have the ultimate in freedom to go anywhere you want, anytime you want, and explore all the beauty of the earth from the same point of view as the birds. And he puts via helicopter, of course, because he's a helicopter pilot. And he had helicopters. And he said, but before all this happened, I had no idea what the other side of the parallel was like. Now I do. I know what it's like to have no money and to have to depend on others for everything you have. I know what it's like to have a bad reputation and have most people think you're a criminal who hurts others for my own gain. And I know what it's like to have no freedom where your every moment is controlled and monitored. And now, as I sit here and write this, I can honestly tell you that I am as happy and content as I have ever been in my whole life. What I have learned, man, this is...
Yeah.
What I have gained from all this is the knowledge that it's totally up to me how I feel. It really has nothing to do with your circumstances or situation. I feel I can take anything that life throws at me now and still be happy and content. What could be more valuable than that? There's a great deal more, and I could go on forever about it, but that is the basic thing I've gotten from it all. I honestly have nothing but love in my heart for... And he names the prosecutors, each prosecutor by name, and the two judges that were part of this, and he names them by name. And he says, in some ways, I feel like I owe them a debt of... Now, you have to know, at this time, I had so much anger for all those people. I was trying to figure out how to have them face their consequence for what they did. And this was his response. He says, in some ways, I feel like I owe them a great debt of gratitude. I know it was not their intent to make my life better, but they honestly have. Nobody understands this, but I really wish everyone could. My life before was mostly lived in fear. Fear of losing all my money, fear of the government, fear of competitors, my reputation, freedom, etc. The list goes on and on. I no longer live my life in fear, or at least I try not to. I am open to whatever adventures life has for me, without any expectation as to what exactly that should be. This is a wonderful way to live, to not hold anger, grudges, and expectations of people in your heart. And in your heart, it opens up and makes room for all kinds of things that you never knew were possible. All aspects of life and people become a grand adventure, and you are never sad or depressed. This is really not a good explanation, but it's the best I can think of at the moment. When I get out, you will see for yourself that I'm a better and happier person than I ever was. Also, don't forget that without all this, we would never know each other.
Oh, wow.
It was necessary to bring us together. You were here for me in my darkest hour. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do to help you out yet, but there will be something, I'm sure of it. love Jeremy.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And
that's touching.
It was like a splash of cold water in my face. Because
Yes.
I was so focused on, like, we got to do this and this. And
I'm going to get them back. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to fix this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even sure I believed it. Because, oh, come on, are you kidding? Like,
yeah.
He was living most of our dreams. He had every car that you could ever imagine he would buy and have it for a while. He had the fastest jet that flew in the air, a Citation 10. And, I mean, there were politicians that were reaching out to him for money because he was a very generous guy.
Yeah.
So he had status and all kinds of privilege. He had a beach house in Santa Monica that I would die for. I would. Well, I hope I wouldn't. I hope I learned from him. But but he had so much, and you think, okay, like, and you have to know, like, really, when he first went to jail, when they were putting him in, and they made him wait in jail while they were figuring out the sentencing, and after he was sentenced, and they initially sentenced him to 17 years, he got so depressed at that time he stopped eating. I would go see him in jail and say, like, Jeremy, you're better than this. You're stronger than this. We'll right this wrong. We'll get this.
Right.
And literally, they were talking about doing a court order to put a feeding tube in because he wasn't eating. And, I mean, to go from that level of depression, he never said he was suicidal. But if you don't want to eat, you don't really care. You're not excited about living. And
about living, yeah, exactly.
To be able to go from that darkness to get to that place was amazing. And then he had some different attorneys that filed an appeal, and we'll talk about all of that in the case. And he had another setback. And then he sent an email to everyone, and his wife has more insight and family than I do, but I did get permission from him to share these 2 emails. And this is the second one. And this is after he'd been practicing all this stuff he was talking about in that last email where he'd like, hey, I can find happiness. I'm happier than I've ever been. So then it was probably another year and a half later, and I'm still struggling myself trying to learn all this. Like, hey, like, we got to find, and I do absolutely believe we all create happiness. It's not money. It's the meaning that we give things that create our happiness. So we've got to be able to get to a place where we can create that every day, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So Jeremy had other lawyers, and they filed an appeal, and the appeal didn't go like we hoped. We hoped they would just reverse everything, and here's the key, get out. Here's your get out of jail card. Go home and sin no more. And that's not what happened. They denied almost everything of it, and it was devastating. And this was Jeremy's response. He sent a letter to all of us that would write to him and try to help him, and just all of us that loved him. And this is his second email. He says, I got the news yesterday evening that the 10th Circuit denied my appeal. This news was without question the absolute worst news I've ever gotten in my entire life. Today I woke up and felt sick, and I did not want to get out of bed. I'm sure, like, this is just me talking. I know we've all been in that place where something has hit us so hard that we're like, I just don't. And that's why I want to share this stuff with people, because it's easy for us to say, like, oh, like, I can see how he's in that dark place, but I know we all get to a dark place, and if I can help anyone to find their way out, that's the whole point of all this today, that I want to help. Okay. So he said, but I learned something very valuable today that I want to share with you. While today was certainly not my best day in prison, it was much better than my worst day. My worst days in prison were when I found out my sentence 20 months ago. I remember how terrible I felt. I just wanted to die. I did not eat anything for a long time, and I mostly just stayed in bed and stewed about all the injustice and cursed the people who did this to me. I recognize all those feelings from that terrible time coming back to me as soon as I got the news that my sentence here will be permanent. This time, however, I decided I was not going to let it get me down, and I've worked hard all day to make sure it didn't. I made myself eat today, even though I was not hungry. Mostly peanut butter from the jar, because they have like a vending machine. If you have money on your account, you could buy like a jar of peanut butter.
Okay.
And he says, I signed up for 18 credits of college courses that will eat up most of my day for the next 2 months. I called my parents and Charla, his wife, and he said, I played tennis with a polygamist and won. And I played chess with the bank robber and won 3 times. I also made my mind focus on all the good things I am thankful for, and I realized that I have plenty to be happy about. And even on a bad day like today, tried to be. For starters, how many of you can even say you've played tennis with a polygamist or chess with a bank robber? I'm guessing none of you. And he says, well, I get to do it every day if I want! Exclamation point. And he says, I got lots of nice heartfelt emails from people who love me. I got 7 books in the mail. I have excellent shoes to wear. He says, this might sound dumb, but try going a few weeks with super crummy shoes or broken, worn out Crocs that the gels make you wear, and you will never look at a good pair of shoes the same again. The weather was lovely, and I watched a news story at the end of NBC Nightly News about a 10-year-old girl that nearly made me cry. Anyway, the list could go on, but the point is that the very valuable thing I learned is that it is 100% in my control how good or bad my day is, even on a day like today when I got the absolute worst news of my entire life. A year ago, getting this news would have absolutely crushed me, but today, it did not even come close. So instead of cursing the people who put me in here today, I said a prayer and thanked them because I am a stronger and a better person for being in prison, and I am learning things that will serve me for the rest of my life, and they are things that I could have never learned without this whole experience.
Wow.
So now, as this day comes to a close for me, my heart is filled with gratitude instead of despair, hope instead of loss, and understanding and love instead of anger. I have no idea what the future holds for me, but I'm going to try to do my very best to make the most of whatever it is. I thank you all very much for all your love and support. Love, Jeremy.
Wow. Wow.
So,
talk about having gratitude in the darkest of the night.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
reminds me somewhat of the poem from Invictus. That it kind of reminds me of Nelson Mandela, when Nelson had to get to a place where, and he, that poem, Dark is the Night that covers me from pole to pole, that he is the captain of his ship and the captain of his soul.
Yeah.
Like, if I could give a gift of anything this season, I hope it's, because I know we're all going through trials, and we, like they say, like, be kind to everyone, because you never know what trial they're facing, what trial, we never know what someone's dealing with. We think, oh, they've got it all together. We have no idea what pains they're carrying, so we need to treat everyone as if they're dealing with a real hardship, because they probably are. Yeah. But one of my greatest lessons is that we can do hard things. Not just that this too shall pass, but not only can we do hard things, but when I think back of, like, going through my assault or going through these trials with my clients, as I'm not sure I choose to learn my lessons that way, because they're tough ways to, that's a hard way to learn to be. I wish I could find a better way to learn what I needed to learn. Yeah. Without a doubt. For me personally, and I imagine it's the same for you, Shelley, for me, the greatest growth I've had in my life comes from the hardest times that I've been through in life. Yeah. Yeah. If you're listening and you're going through a hard time, please remember your growth is coming. It's part of it. Yes. Yes. And and it sucks. It sucks that growth can be so painful.
To be me. But, yeah, exactly.
But I'm better and stronger and more compassionate for what I've been through. And I'm really grateful for it. I don't know that I choose it again, but I'm grateful for, and I didn't go to prison like Jeremy or Nelson Mandela, but we all have our hardships, and that's what I just want everyone to know, like, if you're going through a hard time right now, hang on. It will get better. You'll get stronger. The growth is coming.
Yes.
And if you're not, and you're feeling strong right now, look for someone who isn't reach your hand out, because someone probably needs a hand up.
Right. I agree.
So
you just never know.
Yeah.
A little kindness goes a long way.
Yeah.
But the world could be a lot kinder place, and we could be, living in a lot different out of kindness and gratitude.
Yeah.
So, right.
And that can start with us, like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, we can make a difference in the world. And
I agree.
That I just wanted to kind of give that gift to you guys. If you're struggling, hang on, because the growth is coming, joy is coming, it will come back. Because I know when I'm in a dark place, I think I'll never be happy again. And then when I'm happy, I must have, like, short-term memory loss or something. Because when I'm when I'm happy, I think, oh, I'll never be that sad again. That was horrible.
Yeah.
It just feels like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah, I always think I may be really bitchy, in a bitchy mood, or this day sucks for me.
Yeah.
And I allow myself one day.
Yeah.
Sometimes the weight of it is just so heavy. It's like, I always say the world's too big. I need to go to bed. I need to have a nap.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to feel this to my bones.
And
but
then
thank
let it
heavens
go.
Tomorrow, when the sun comes up, then I've got to have enough courage to get up and get moving again.
Right.
Yeah. So, but you need to be able to, sometimes you just have to be able to waller for a moment. When everybody's like, but your life's not that bad. You don't know that.
Right.
Like, let them have a moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When it gets to be longer than a day or two, or it's a week or whatever, then of course, then we want to really reach out and support our family and friends and our, acquaintances. But
reach out and help.
It's okay to have a moment of just heartache.
It is okay.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And or you can just listen to one of our funny episodes and shake it off. Get out of it.
Exactly.
So
if you want comic relief, call us.
Yes. So that is our gift to you this season. Thank you for listening to Pamela Private Eye. We love you. Keep listening, please.
Yes, thank you.
Help us grow and make it bigger and better. And thank you for everything, everyone. Happy
Merry
New Year.
Christmas. Yes. Happy New Year. We'll see you in the 2022.
Yes. Thank you for listening to Pamela Private Eye.